So we have new tag team champions. We also have a new double champion for the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Championship. We had a pretty fun 6-man tag team championship a couple nights ago, which was pretty fun. So we'll get talking about all the way from the King of Pro Wrestling up through today, and then we're going to be talking about the G1 starting on Saturday. Man, I can't believe this is going to be a crazy one. What's up, everybody? Eric here from That's Wrestling. Thanks for tuning in. We are going to be covering New Japan today. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can grab this as a podcast on all your favorite podcast apps. But if you're listening to this as a podcast, do know we do this show live on YouTube. So if you go over there, subscribe, the link is in the show notes. And if you hit the bell notification, it'll let you know as soon as we schedule a live stream, especially with New Japan, because it goes all over the place because they don't have a set schedule. Also, head over to iTunes to give us a review. There's a Discord that has a whole bunch of stuff that you can find in the description as well. And if you have any mailbag, comment, question, feedback, all that fun stuff, you can send them to eric@thatswrestling.com. And tonight I have, for the first time ever, I have Trey Weisgarber. How's it going, man?
Man, I'm a little concerned for your safety right now, Eric, because when you were doing that rundown of all the recent happenings in New Japan Pro Wrestling, you forgot the most important one of all. We have a new never openweight champion.
Oh, we do. That was a good match too.
You cannot forget the king.
All right, so since this is your first time on the show, why don't you give us a little rundown about yourself?
A rundown about me. My name is Trey. I'm a really tired person who just wants to watch wrestling and talk about it and not deal with reality any more than I absolutely have to. Is that a suitable introduction? I love wrestling. I've been I tell people when they're just meeting me that my obsession with wrestling will astound you. I usually get pretty deep into a conversation when someone has the realization that I'm kind of a wrestling encyclopedia. I have a really wonderful memory for useless wrestling knowledge, and just, been a diehard wrestling fan for 2/3 of my life.
All right, excellent. All right, so let's get into this. Let's go back here to August 26th, and this was the kickoff, basically, of the King of Pro Wrestling tournament, I guess, sort of, or whatever can you call it a title, or is it a cup, or what would you even call this thing?
Well, Kevin Kelly keeps pretty specifically saying the King of the KOPW 2020 trophy holder.
Right.
I can't remember what the little graphic says, but I don't know. It's like it's those weird things, like, when the King of the Ring in the WWF in the late 80s was like it's a title, but it doesn't feel like a real championship because it's not a belt, and in wrestling, real championships are belts.
Sure. And the interesting thing about this one is they are going to, basically, whoever's holding it, they have to defend it, and then whoever's holding it at the end of the year gets crowned the King of Pro Wrestling for that year, and then the next year they start it all over again. So interesting. It's like it's like hot potato. The last one holding it gets the trophy in the end.
Yeah, a championship scramble, if you will.
Yeah. Also interesting for the specific to the matches revolving around the King of Pro Wrestling, they are basically all going to be gimmick matches proposed by the wrestlers themselves and then voted on by the fans. So interesting here, we had in the first round, we had, or which then was just going to go into a 4-way at Jingu, we have a 2-count pinfall match. That one was between Yano and Bushi. We had a submission match, which both Sonata and Sho wanted, so nobody voted on that one. We have a no finishers allowed match between Desperado and Kojima. And then we had a 1-on-3 handicap match with Kazuchiko Okada and Yujiro, Takahashi, Gato, and Jado. So interesting stipulations. I believe Yujiro, his opposite proposal was a lumberjack match, a lumberjack strap match, I believe it was. The opposite of the no finishers was you had to finish with the finisher. And then the 2-count pinfall was a 5-count out of the ring that was proposed by Bushi.
Did you vote on these when they posted them on Twitter?
I did not.
I did. I just happened to be like on when they went, and the only one that I picked, I wanted finisher only and not no finisher, because I knew my man Kojima was going to struggle.
So I guess before we get into it, I talked about it a bit. What do you think about New Japan bringing in, which seems to be a lot of gimmick matches if they're going to continue on this route for the King of Pro Wrestling title?
Okay, I made this point a couple of months ago when people were first reacting to the whole Evil run, is that whatever the original plan for this year was, like it wasn't this. Like I think they were going to do something with Evil, but it wasn't, exactly this. This is, in everything that has happened in pro wrestling in 2020, it's triage booking. It's response to a crisis situation. New Japan has been in an especially difficult position because they have not had access to so much of their talent. They rely so strongly on international talent, and the only international wrestlers who have been there throughout the pandemic are Zack Sabre Jr. and Gabriel Kidd, the Young Lion.
Yeah, because they chose to stay in Japan.
Yeah. I think, and apparently this was Kazuchiko Okada's idea, and it's just, my stance on it at this point is that it's an idea to do something while they need some ideas right now, and we'll see how far it goes.
Yeah.
Like, I think I am curious. I like what I have seen so far enough to be curious about what they're going to do going.
Yeah, and maybe 2021 they might do it, and then everything gets back to normal, and they'll be like, all right, we're done with this in 2022.
Yeah.
So the first match was Yano defeating Bushi in the 2-count pinfall match. I thought this was fine. It's kind of what you expect, but actually the 2-count pinfall kind of added a bit of suspense to it, because usually you're like 1-2 kick out, 1-2 kick out every time, and here's like you got to kick out at 1, so that added a little bit more excitement to it, I think.
A 2-count pinfall was just the most perfect stipulation for Mr. Flashpin Toru Yano. And maybe I have it written down, but I have it written down as the first of the matches was Kojima and Desperado.
Yeah, I might actually have this out. Yes, it was. I just have this out of order. I don't know why. Yes, it was.
So, yeah, the Bushi Toru Yano match, it was, 4-5 minutes. It was fun. It was just...
They pull out the tape. Yano got his feet taped together, but still managed to pull out the victory with a roll-up.
It was like a Bushi kind of did a La Magistral, and Yano kind of turned it back on him. It was, I like these little short Yano matches, they can break up a lot of the the great thing about New Japan is that everything is different, and Yano is a great thing to have to break up the sameness.
Especially in the G1. I always love him in the G1 because he always comes up with kind of funny things. I was a big fan of the year that him and Kenny Omega had taped each other's feet together, so they had to do like bunny hopping everywhere, which I thought was hilarious, and I thought was like one of Yano's best matches in a long time.
I loved the match with Jon Moxley last year, and Moxley's promo afterwards.
Yes, that was good. Yeah, Yano likes to play spoiler. It's pretty funny how that happens. And then earlier this year when he got taped up and sent down the elevator in the New Japan Cup by Hiromu, which was just hilarious.
That was great stuff.
All right, so as you said, there was El Desperado and Kojima, and here Kojima lost because he used his finisher. They had a lot of teasing around of this, but of course, that's how it goes. He couldn't hold back. Is just instinctual, I guess, and that finish. Very interesting stipulation, but yeah, it was what it was, I guess.
A lot of people shit on this, the 15-minute match for that finish. I actually love this finish, and I thought that they did it so perfectly, and that, and they kept making the point, Kojima has not won a singles match with a move other than the lariat since 2008. And it just, he would... There were a couple teases during the match, and then just finally, it was like he just hit it without thinking, and then just the slow realization of what he had done. I enjoyed it, and I thought that it was a very creative way to do a finish.
Yeah, it was just a very instinctual thing for him to do. And then we had Sho and Sonata in a submission match. I thought this was a very fun match again. The two of them are always fun because they are both kind of submission guys anyways, and I don't want the dog. They're both submission guys anyways, so it tends to work out. I'm a big fan of Sonata when he's especially working with guys like Zack Sabre Jr. as well. Sho, of course, is trying to go for the armbar the whole time. Sonata tries a few different things, of course, but then finishes off with Skull End.
Sho is he won with figure 4. It was not Skull End.
Oh my god. My notes are totally screwed up here.
I'm sorry, Eric. I'm a corrector.
Oh, that's all right. Yes, he did win with the figure 4, because now I'm trying to think back. Did Sho feign a knee issue at some point?
I think so.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
As much as I like Sonata matches, they all kind of run together in my mind.
Yes, because he does have a lot of them, and they all tend to be very good. So, what are you?
I never don't like them, but they can kind of run together. And Sho continuing to have a very good 2020 where he's having really great performances and mostly losing.
And then we have the final match was Okada versus Yujiro, Takahashi, Gato, and Jado. Of course, it continues on with Bullet Club getting in all types of shenanigans because that's what they do. But in the end, we have Okada pulling out the victory. That was pretty much a no-brainer. I don't think we would have seen anything different. Though I don't know why they put it on last because the match wasn't that good.
If you put these two opposing sides on a scale where they're measured by wrestling talent, if you have the three guys on one side who altogether don't even approach one Kazuchiko Okada. This match was not good, but I agree. But it's Okada. It's Okada beating the Bullet Club, so it's a Cork and Hall main event. Sure, whatever. It was what it was. It saved. Okada submitted Gato with the money clip.
Yeah,
what he calls that modified Cobra Clutch that he started doing in the New Japan Cup.
Yeah, when they were calling it the Cobra Clutch, I'm like, that is not a Cobra Clutch. So I'm glad they finally gave it a better name.
Yeah, Money Clip is a cool name. But they saved, because it was a handicap match, they saved Okada having to beat Yujiro again, which means we can get another Yujiro Okada single.
Yeah, and do we really want to see that again?
Well, we're going to, because they're in the same block.
All right, so that moves us on to the Summer Struggle in Jingu Stadium show, and there were a lot of good matches on here. We start off the night with Kanemaru versus Master Wato. I have not been feeling Master Wato at all since coming in. Calling himself Kanemaru here was even making fun of him, calling himself a master, even though he's like 23 years old. So I don't know why he can really call himself a master, but yeah, I just haven't been feeling Master Wato at all.
I get it. If it's like, to me, you just like, I don't know. He has blue hair and he does the spiral tap for a finish, and his name is Master Wato, and all that kind of hits for me. But I get, he made his, he came back from an excursion, and he had his first match with Doki, who is, the lowest slotted non-young lion on the New Japan totem pole. He beat Doki. He's been pinned twice by Kanemaru, though he did, I think, didn't he pin Kanemaru in the... Well, we'll get to that, but anyway, you saw pretty quickly where Master Wato was slotted.
Yeah.
He is an undercard babyface junior heavyweight. And you know what? Somebody has to be the undercard babyface junior heavyweight.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think the look just doesn't do it for me. The name is kind of weird. Hirai Kawato was so much of a better name, I think. But anyways, here, Kanemaru rolled them up in the end. A bit sloppy to take the victory here. But yeah, was what it was. Going into the next match, it was the KOPW finals. So we had Okada versus Desperado versus Sanada versus Yano. This match was a bit of a cluster, I guess. It's pretty much all over the place, and it was okay. I think the finish is kind of the biggest thing. We have Desperado grabbing the referee at the end, and we have Okada trying to finish him off, and then we have Yano coming up, low blowing Okada from behind, and he gets the victory in 7 minutes. And the first King of Pro Wrestling champion, title holder, cup holder, whatever you want to call him, is Toru Yano.
Who had Toru Yano pinning Kazuchika Okada on their 2020 bingo card?
Definitely not me. I don't think I ever have Yano pinning anybody for the most part, but...
These guys are, not guys that are very experienced at doing these kind of matches, and these kind of matches tend to suck anyway, unless there's a lot of thought put into them. But as far as a 7-minute match, second match on a big card, it was enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, Yano being the first King of Pro, aren't we supposed to bring some prestige to this thing? Like, what do you think any of the other really, Okada or Sonata being the first one would have made way more sense to kind of elevate it out of the gate and not make it a complete joke. Or are we supposed to see this as a joke, given that the stipulations behind all these matches?
Well, I think everybody thought that it was a foregone conclusion that Okada was going to win this thing because it was his thing. So, it was just... I think it was probably just, meant to be an upset.
And if Sonata would have won and pinned Okada, then we would have that continuation of the storyline where Sonata just cannot beat Okada. And here we have him at least pinning him in a 4-way.
Yeah, but he did pin him in the G1 last year.
Right. Yeah, but for the most part, I think they were 7-1 or something like that.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
All right, and then we move on to the good matches of the show, or the very good matches. The Never Openweight Championship, Shingo Takagi facing Minoru Suzuki, the Murder Grandpa. And they beat the crap out of each other for about 15 minutes. We have Suzuki actually getting hit with Made in Japan and kicking out halfway through this match. It was 7-8 minutes in, and then I'm like, oh man, this one's gonna end early, and they continued on for another 7 or 8 minutes after getting hit with Made in Japan. Suzuki avoids a Last of the Dragon from Shingo, and he throws on the sleeper, and then Suzuki hits a Gotch pile driver, and he wins and is the new Never Openweight champion at 50 some odd years old.
Yeah, this match was awesome. How could it not be? It's Shingo Takagi and Minoru Suzuki. I love the Never title. It's, I've always, just as a wrestling fan, been, you develop a partiality to a certain championship based on who fights for it and whatnot. So just the Never Openweight Championship over the past 5 or 6 years, I got it, whatever that UFC belt. Whatever. The real BMF champion is whoever is the Never Openweight champion.
Yeah, I have to say I have been a huge fan of the Never Openweight Championship as well, especially when you have guys like Ishii holding it, and then we have Shingo Takagi here. And even while Kenta was holding it, I like the matches that he had as well. So yeah, the Never Openweight division has kind of been the some of the more fun matches that they've had, and it's just kind of like the brawler beat the crap out of the other guy type of championship at this point.
I actually got to hold the physical belt one time. I'll post a picture up on Twitter after the show. It was when Minoru Suzuki, his last reign as Never champion, when he came over to wrestle Cody in Ring of Honor, and it was his first time wrestling in the U.S. since 1993. So nice. It was that was essentially my birthday present that year was going to Vegas to see Minoru Suzuki wrestle live. So that was really awesome.
I was kind of bummed that he didn't come over to the show that I went to in Boston. He wasn't there. But Okada and Tanahashi and Kodabushi and a whole bunch of other guys were there, so I was happy with that.
Yeah, I was. I got to go to the G1 opening in Dallas last year, so that was.
Anything else? Anything else about this match?
No, I'm sorry. I got off topic, just gushing over how much I love Minoru Suzuki and the Never Openweight title.
All right. Then we move into, again, another really good match of the evening, and that was the Junior Heavyweight Championship against Hiromu Takahashi versus Taiji Ishimori. I don't know how Hiromu is walking, because he got dropped on his head so many times during this match. Also, there was a release suplex into the corner that Hiromu did to Ishimori, and he landed, he hit way high on the turnbuckle and then just crashed down to the ground on his head. We had a few spots where Ishimori keeps trying to put on the yes lock, and Hiromu manages to make it to the ropes a couple times. But then, we have Hiromu's getting worn down, and ultimately we have Ishimori finally being able to put on the yes lock without it being broken, and he submits Hiromu for the victory and is the new junior heavyweight champion.
This was a very good match. It didn't quite kick all the way into great for me. My only problem is, okay, if Hiromu is staying a junior heavyweight, and the fact that he's not in the G1 indicates that if he is staying a junior heavyweight, just keep the belt on it. He needs, that's something that they've been sort of trying, or they've been giving lip service to trying for like 2 decades now, of like finding the next definitive New Japan junior heavyweight ace, the next Liger. It was supposed to be Kushida. Kushida ended up leaving. It's supposed to be Hiromu could be that Jushin Liger level junior heavyweight superstar. So, but I feel like to do that, you need to have him have a defining extended run with the junior heavyweight title.
Yeah, the thing is, can his body hold up? I mean, that's the question.
Well, yeah, that is the question. But
so I don't know if. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So I don't know if they don't know if he can hold up, or if he wanted to break at some point, though he continued on, and he's going to have the breakthrough the G1 time anyways. So I don't know why they would move it. I don't have a problem with Taiji Ishimori because he's an excellent wrestler, and I like his single stuff a lot more than his tag stuff that he did with El Phantasmo last year. I was not a huge fan of some of the stuff he was doing, but I thought this was a really solid showing for both of them. Just every time I watch Hiromu, I'm always worried about him though.
Yeah, and Taiji Ishimori is great. No problem with him being the champion. But I had a train of thought that I lost about Hiromu. You talk about this match for a second. I'll see if it comes back to me.
Yeah, so I mean, in short, everything was, the way it was fast paced, and of course we had those close calls on a whole bunch of moves. But of course this is a callback to the Best of the Super Juniors final of 2018 as well, where they had an excellent match at the end of that tournament, and this just kind of continues on their ways of putting on really good matches together.
Yeah. I think the title change is just another trope of Gato's booking. Ishimori wins a title here. He'll defend it, in November against somebody, and then he can lose it back to Hiromu at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, and given that Hiromu is a babyface, the kind of the chase can be even more exciting than the title reign, and I kind of feel that with Hiromu, that the chase is, with him, kind of both are good, but the chase always feels more exciting to me with Hiromu than him holding the title.
Isn't it strange how he and Naito are very similar in that way?
Yes.
Not to spoil the main event, but the story that we just described, it's exactly the story between Naito and Evil.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the IWGP Tag Team Championship. This is a rematch. We have the Dangerous Techers of Tai Chi and Zack Sabre Jr. versus the Golden Aces, Kodabushi and Hiroshi Tanahashi. And a lot of the story going in is that Tanahashi is past his prime. He's really slowing down and breaking down. And Ibushi has been distraught, I guess, seeing his hero kind of falling apart in front of his eyes. They had the match back at Dominion where they lost the titles. I thought that match was not, the ending was just really weird because it went on for like 3 minutes of straight double teaming by Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. with the ref doing absolutely nothing to stop it. It's like, I'm pretty sure you're way past the count at this point. But again, we have it going. Well, you'd think, they get the rematch here. Okay, are they going to give the titles back to the Golden Aces? Tanahashi just coming out originally is looking good, but then throughout the match, he starts breaking down. And Ibushi kind of has to take the load of his team on his back. We have plenty of regular Zack Sabre Jr. trying to tie up everybody and everything. At one point, he really tied up Tanahashi with his arms behind his back, and he pulled his leg backwards as well. It's like that did not look comfortable at all. But in the end, we have the double team of on Tanahashi. He got hit with the Zack Mephisto, and they finish him off and retain the titles, the Dangerous Techers, that is.
I popped for Zack Mephisto.
Right?
It's is it when Zack does the Michinoku driver, and I can't remember how the move goes exactly. Or it's a combination, Zack Driver and Black Mephisto, and I just the name was really cool.
Yeah.
I like this match. I remember liking the match at Dominion more. It was a hotter match. I have watched every New Japan show since they started back in June, because there's a global pandemic and there's nothing else to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen every single one. The 6,000 6 and 8 man tags with Golden Aces on one side and Dangerous Techers on the other, right? But I love the ongoing Tanahashi Ibushi story. It's one of my, if you go back to Ibushi coming so close in that incredible match and losing in the G1 final to Tanahashi 2 years ago. Then leading back to the moment last year when he finally beat Tanahashi in the G1, and then I've really enjoyed following the story as it develops between them, and it seems like they're gonna go back to this after the G1. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. Like, would you turn Kota Ibushi heel and have him turn on Tanahashi? It seems weird because Kota Ibushi seems like the baby faces of all baby faces.
Which likely means that he's gonna secretly be an amazing heel when it finally happens.
Right. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I think it is going to happen. I don't know exactly when. Maybe, maybe within the next year. But we'll see where it goes.
Something I just thought of this right now. It may be completely out of left field, but with it is constantly Taichi and Zack Sabre Jr. kind of egging Kota Ibushi on. Kota Ibushi does not belong to a faction currently. What if he joined Suzuki-gun to take it over?
Now that is a really interesting idea. See, you need the symmetry of the story of Suzuki losing Suzuki-gun the same way that he took it from Satoshi Kojima. So somebody just needs to, come along and take the stable from him.
Yeah.
And then, oh god, imagine a young punk pretty boy heel Kota Ibushi against pissed off babyface murder grandpa.
I could see some crazy matches with them, but I would be very, very scared for Kota Ibushi. And Kota Ibushi is not that young. He just looks really young.
Yeah, I realized that as I was saying. I think he might actually be older than me.
He's 38 years old.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So, yeah, but, I mean, those would be some crazy matches, I'm sure. Because both of them are really good strikers and have excellent striking. So he wouldn't even have to get dropped on his head that many times. The Kota Ibushi, that is, in that match. Because, really, Suzuki is all about just beating the crap out of you with strikes. So, I mean, even like him versus Nagata in the New Japan Cup was like one of the best matches I've seen this year.
Yes. Oh, that match was awesome.
So yeah, there's a lot of directions they could go. Do they turn Ibushi heel either in the G1 or after the G1? We will probably find out at some point. We could even have. Oh, we'll talk about that later. Let's finish this show off and head to the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Championship. This is Evil versus Tetsuya Naito. Tetsuya Naito getting a rematch to see if he can reclaim his dual titles. I thought their Dominion match was not that good. I thought this match was much better, but not by a ton. We still had plenty of interference on the outside, but kind of what made this one better is that we have LIJ coming out to kind of take out the trash and take the offenders to the back. So the end of the match continues on with no outside interference. And of course, we do have some ref bumps, which those are really getting old, especially after they've come back from the break. There's been so many more ref bumps, and it's starting to wear on me here.
This whole Evil run.
Yeah, but it wasn't even specifically with Evil's matches. There have just been ref bumps like everywhere. But in the end, we have Naito hitting Destino, and he regains the titles. Like I said, it was better than their last match, but it wasn't a huge standout.
So, just symmetry. This show was 21 years almost to the day of the last time New Japan ran an outdoor show. It was in the same stadium, the Jingu Stadium, in August of 1999, and apparently that stadium was a young Tetsuya Naito would go to baseball games there, and he, was so excited when they announced that New Japan was going to be at the stadium, and you can see it in the video package. He's holding his ticket stub from the Jingu Climax in 1999.
Yep.
And here he is 21 years later, main eventing the same arena, winning back the double titles. Good match. A lot of people have been critical of this whole Evil story. I'm more tolerant of it than a lot of Western fans, I think, because I always try to keep in mind that Gato is using techniques that he learned from watching Southern wrestling applied to Japanese pro wrestling, and he's using that to book pro wrestling for a Japanese wrestling audience. So that's why you get the guy turning on his friend and taking his belts and carrying them for a month before your star babyface, Jerry Lawler in the Mid-South Coliseum, Tetsuya Naito in Jingu Stadium, comes back, wins his belts back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I as an overall booking trajectory, I've not really had a problem with how this was booked out. I think it was perfectly fine. Some of the I don't even know what you want to call it. The details were a bit messy. The overload of ref bumps and interference and all that. Out, not even just inside evil matches, but even outside throughout this entire time since coming back from the break. It's just starting to feel repetitive to me, which New Japan never really felt that repetitive. Like I'm seeing the same thing over and over, but now it's starting to feel that way in some of these matches. So I'm hoping this kind of settles down now, given just how everything is laid out. Though we do have basically heels across the board with the major champions. So we have Suzuki, Taiji, Ishimori, the Dangerous Techers, and Naito is like the only babyface holding a major championship right now.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see how it goes.
I was going to say the Never Sixes, but you said major championship.
Yeah. Well, the Never Sixes, yeah, they're held by, a Chaos faction, so.
But man, like that tournament really raised the profile of the Never Sixes.
Yeah, that was fun. I thought there were some pretty good matches, and especially seeing a match that you'd almost never see, and then we actually saw it again a couple days ago, seeing two Chaos teams going at each other, because you usually don't see members inside factions facing each other except in like a G1 format. That's about the only time you would see faction members going against each other.
But I have a big soft spot for Yoshihashi because I've been a pretty big New Japan fan since about like 2003, 2004. So these guys that I remember Nobuo Yoshihashi as a young lion. I watched him come up. I remember the year he upset Koji Kanemoto in the Best of the Super Juniors. So it's that was a really great. I love seeing Yoshihashi finally getting to put a title around his waist, even if it is the Never Six.
Yeah, he's never really clicked for me, but that's just me, I guess.
I mean, somebody's got to be Yoshihashi, man. And there's nothing wrong with being Yoshihashi. So
overall, I thought the Jingu Stadium show was really good. I thought it was better than Dominion. I was a big fan of this show. It didn't feel like it dragged. It went by pretty quick. It was there was pretty much no filler. We just had the one match early on with Kanemaru and Master Wato, and that was it. The rest of it was all championship matches.
Yeah, I think this is kind of up there with All Out as probably the best major pro wrestling event since the pandemic.
Yep. All right, so let's move on. We'll quickly go through it. They had to have a IWGP Junior Tag Championship tournament because, unfortunately, Yo has torn his ACL and had surgery, and he was definitely not going to be back in time to be able to defend the championship. So those were vacated. We had for our teams, we had Master Wato and Taguchi, and then we had Kanemaru and Desperado, and then we had Bushi and Hiromu, and then we had Gato and Taiji Ishimori. Those were the participants. They had basically a round robin tournament, so it was 2 points for a win, 0 for a loss, and then 1 point if it went to a draw. But they all had 60 minutes, so I didn't think they were going to go to a draw unless they had like a double count out, which I have not seen in quite a while. Well, I think it actually did happen during the New Japan Cup in a. Yeah, it happened actually in an undercard match on the New Japan Cup this year, when Yano and Hiromu were fighting outside of the ring in the concourse the night before their singles match. Anyways, we have the first match in the tournament was Master Wato and Taguchi taking on Desperado and Kanemaru, and this is where we have Master Wato picking up the victory over Kanemaru. And so we have Taguchi and Wato moving on with 2 points, and Kanemaru and Desperado having 0 points after the first night. And then the second match of the evening was Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi versus Gato and Taiji Ishimori. And we actually had Bushi here picking up the victory on Gato to finish out the last night. Nothing huge out of these matches, though that second one actually went like 20 minutes.
That was Gato's best match in a long time, but it was because Gato was in it very limited amounts.
Yeah. And then
Bushi and Taiji can carry it.
Right. And then the next matches that we had in the tournament was Kanemaru and Desperado getting a win over Gato and Taiji Ishimori here. El Desperado won with Pinche Loco. And then we had Hiromu pinning Master Wato in their match. Bushi and Hiromu versus Master Wato and Taguchi. And I thought this match was better. For a better showing from Master Wato in this particular match. I think Taguchi is a good person to team him up with because you can pull a little less seriousness out of him.
Yeah, and I liked Taguchi. Was like when I first started watching New Japan, like the opening match, Young Boys were Taguchi and Hiroki Goto. So, like, those guys, always going to have just a real soft spot for me. So, I love Taguchi, and he's a good partner for Master Wato. I like Master Wato. I want to see him do well. I want to see them, kind of let him do something.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed him more back when he was a young lion. But we will see. And then we had the final pairings here. So, we had going into it... we end up with Taiji Ishimori getting a pin on Master Wato during their match. So they bring up what? Oh yes, with the yes lock. Sorry, with the yes lock submitting Master Wato. And again, actually, I thought this was one of the more decent matches during this tournament as well. What do you think about this one?
Yeah, one of the better matches of the tournament. Not the best match of the tournament because that was the next one.
Yeah, the next one was an excellent match. So, anyways, those two teams end up with 2 points in the end. And then we have the match of Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi versus Kanemaru and El Desperado. And I thought this was a fun match, hard-hitting, fast-paced. But we do have El Desperado getting the win over Bushi to finish out this tournament, and both teams end up with 4 points. So they end up having a second match. But again, yes, you thought this was the best match of the tournament?
Yeah, until I scroll down and see what I thought about I thought the final was better, but yeah, this one was very good.
Yeah, so the final match was those same teams once again, and I thought this was a solid match and was very fun, fast-paced. Desperado actually pinned Hiromu Takahashi here after the Pinche Loco. And they have Kanemaru and Desperado becoming the 62nd junior heavyweight champions.
Yeah, those belts have been around for a long time, just kind of floating around. They're really, they have some, some good teams have held them and they have good matches for them, but like they're really just kind of there, and they will not do the logical thing, which is just to integrate the tag team division and have junior heavyweights go for the main tag titles. So I have a radical suggestion that I don't know if anybody's thought of. Abolish the IWGP junior heavyweight tag titles. Frame them up. Send one to Liger. And institute never open weight tag title.
That could be interesting. Yeah, I haven't really had a problem with them having two different titles. I've liked the junior tag leagues that they've done in the past couple of years. Of course, we had the perennial winners of Sho and Yo for like the past 3 or 4 years at this point. They've been kind of the longest holders throughout the past couple of years. Of course, we have the Young Bucks. We're holding them as well. Maybe it comes down to who's holding them, and they just haven't elevated the titles enough to make them relevant. Because obviously we've had the Young Bucks holding them for quite a bunch of different times throughout the past decade.
I think I think the time that they felt most relevant was like that period when it was Apollo 5-5 and the Golden Lovers feuding over those.
Yeah, and we're pushing that back, 12 years?
Yeah, so somewhere in that period.
So yeah, maybe it's just maybe they just need to work on elevating the junior tag titles. I thought the junior tag league last year was really good, with Sho and Yo, and then you had El Phantasmo and Taiji Ishimori. While I didn't like some of their work, they made a really good team, and it was pretty exciting. So they had some really good matches between just those two teams.
I really like Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles' tag team.
I forgot that they were in it last year too. Yes, they were awesome. That made a lot of really good matches.
Ospreay and Eagles, the birds of prey.
The birds of prey. Beautiful. All right, so we have the G1 coming up here, and wow, we have some very interesting brackets.
Are you feeling excited, Eric?
I am feeling very excited, especially for the A block, but even the B block has a solid lineup.
I started to really get excited when I sat down to actually go through the matchups today. Oh, let's get into it.
All right. So let's start. We have the A block, which is Kodabushi, Jeff Cobb, Kazuchiko Okada, Tomohiro Ishii, Will Ospreay. So he is going to be making the trip and quarantining for 2 weeks beforehand.
They're already there.
Yes, I'm assuming B. Priestley is with him. We have Shingo Takagi, Minoru Suzuki, so we're going to see a rematch for the Never Open rematch coming up. We have Tai Chi, which is kind of the odd man out here, and Yujiro. Those are kind of the two odd men out, and then Jay White also made the trip and is quarantined, so he will be joining. So we have quite a few Gaijin coming back for this, with Jay White, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay in that block.
I was getting worried and wondering what they were going to try to do if they couldn't get their foreign talent in.
Yeah,
I was low-key like, is this finally when they make the call and get Kento Miyahara, or but no, they managed it.
And then over on the B block, we have it kind of headed up. We have Hiroshi Tanahashi. So we have Kodabushi and Hiroshi Tanahashi on opposite blocks, which is interesting. And actually, this is like the first year in a very, very, very long time, if ever, that Tanahashi is actually in the B block. So we have also Juice Robinson. So he's over there. We have Hiroki Goto, Toru Yano, Yoshihashi, Tetsuya Naito, Sonata, Zack Sabre Jr., Kenta, and Evil. So both blocks I think are very solid. I have a feeling that A block is going to have probably the most highest rated matches. But yeah. I see some pretty decent ones coming out of the B block as well. I always love Sonata and Zack Sabre Jr. matches. Those are always fun. Goto versus Tetsuya Naito should be another good one. And then Juice Robinson, he can like work with anybody, but he's always very charismatic. So it always becomes a fun match regardless of who he's having it with.
Yeah, I like Juice a lot.
And then we have Kenta in there as well. So I'm trying to run down how much Bullet Club we have, which we have Kenta and Evil, and that is it.
And Yujiro.
Yeah, on the other side we have Jay White, Yujiro, and that is it out of Bullet Club. So really, we only have 2 Bullet Club members in each block.
Yeah, well, that's plenty.
Yeah. So it they seem to be at a bit of a disadvantage this year, but we'll see how it goes. So, where do you want to start with this? Because I don't have a bracket filled out, so where do you think this one's going?
Okay, so night 1, September 19th, I think it's in Osaka at the Edion Arena. I don't have the schedule in front of me. Will Ospreay against Yujiro Takahashi, Jeff Cobb against Taichi, Tomohiro Ishii against Minoru Suzuki. Holy shit.
That match is going to be awesome. I think that's probably going to take the match. Well, actually, we have another match that might take it.
Shingo Takagi versus Jay White. That'll be excellent. And the main event of night 1 is Kazuchiko Okada against Kota Ibushi.
Okay, I love all of these matches. All of these matches are going to be really good.
Not Jeff Cobb and Taichi so much.
Oh yeah, Taichi and Jeff Cobb not so much, but I mean Minoru Suzuki and Ishii, Shingo Takagi and Jay White, and Okada and Ibushi. That's like a stacked card right there.
That's a hell of a top 3 matches right there, man.
So what are your predictions here?
Ospreay over Yujiro. I got Jeff Cobb over Taichi. Taichi beat Cobb for the Never title last year. Jeff get that win back. Pick Minoru Suzuki over Ishii. I have Suzuki going on a pretty big run in this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And also Shingo upsetting Jay White for the big upset on night 1. And then I have Okada beating Kota Ibushi. And this is the one match that originally, when I first did it, I set it a draw. And then just for the math to work out on the final night, I had to switch it to Okada winning, so it came out perfect. I had to switch this match to Okada winning, so the math at the end came out perfectly.
That's funny, because just looking at it here, I would say draw would be the outcome that I would think out of that match.
Yeah, well, the same thing until I really thought about, because you've got to think about the tournament as a whole, and really, that's why this is so fascinating, because any one of these matches could mean something.
Yeah.
All right, it could come down to the last night that, Naito loses a tiebreaker to somebody because he got rolled up by Yano early in the tournament.
Sure, yeah.
So, like, every single match result in this tournament matters.
Yeah, so that's going to be in Osaka. Basically, every night is going to be some pairing of Yota Tsuji, Gabriel Kidd, and Yuya Uemura in singles matches throughout this entire thing. So every night it's going to be, a singles pairing of those 3 guys for every single night. So they are going to be busy bees.
I'm kind of interested to see what they're doing by the last week of the tournament.
Right, yeah. So the second night is also in Osaka, and that's going to be Juice Robinson versus Yoshihashi, Toriano versus Sonata, Goto versus Kenta, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Evil, and then finishing out the night, Tanahashi versus Naito.
Yeah, which is obviously that's the big match for this night, right? Tanahashi and Naito, which I have Tanahashi doing respectably well for Tanahashi in this tournament, but on this night and with just where I think the tournament is going, I think that Naito is going to get one over on.
So this year, actually. Oh, never mind. We're good. I was reading it totally wrong. And then so you think? Oh, I guess we'll find out at the end.
I think Naito over Tanahashi. Yeah, it'll come around.
Okay.
I just kind of did this, like a couple of hours before we recorded, and I was so pleased with myself because like I had to change the one result. And both of my blocks came out perfectly.
Nice. Night 3, we are moving to. Sorry.
Prediction.
Yeah, go for it.
Juice over Yoshihashi, Yano over Sonata.
Ooh.
An upset. Kenta over Goto, Evil over Zack Sabre Jr., and like I said, Naito over Tanahashi.
All right, cool. Should be a good one. Next, they're going to move into Sapporo. And on night 3, we have Cobb versus Shingo Takagi, Okada versus Takahashi, Suzuki versus Tai Chi, Ishii versus Will Ospreay, and then Kota Ibushi versus Jay White in the main event.
I first started to get really excited when I was going through the matchups, and I got to night 3 and saw Jeff Cobb versus Shingo Takagi.
They're going to punch the crap out of each other.
That is going to be man side. I think I've got Shingo winning that match is kind of a pick'em, but I think Shingo is gonna rack up some points in the tournament. Okada beating Yujiro, obviously. Suzuki and Taichi in what is I'm certain is going to be a very weird match.
Yeah.
I've got Minoru Suzuki winning just because I've got him, doing well in here for a while. Mm-hmm. And Ishii and Will Ospreay sounds like a hell of a match.
Sounds like a clash of styles and a half, though.
Yeah, but God, those guys are so freaking good just with everyone that I believe completely that they are going to have an incredible match. And I mean, like, they're both in Chaos, so they're friends. So they'll beat the absolute crap out of each other. And I think I got Ospreay pulling off maybe a little bit of an upset. Doesn't feel like an upset because sort of according to relative rank, but just in terms of toughness, anybody beating Tomohiro Ishii feels like a lot.
I'm curious to see, actually, before this last one, I'm curious to see how Ospreay is going to be now that he's put on like 25 pounds of muscle over the clock down.
Oh yeah, it's going to be interesting to see a lot of these guys who have not wrestled in a long time.
And then the final of Kota. What was that?
Ospreay has not wrestled since March, I think.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. The last match is a rematch of the tournament final from last year, which was an incredible match between Kota Ibushi and Switchblade Jay White. And I've got Switchblade winning that one.
I think Jay White last year's G1 performance is when Jay White really started to click for me. I think he really kind of settled into his role in the G1 last year.
It was that match when I saw the heel work against Ibushi in the G1 final that I was like, okay, yeah, this is the best working heel in the business.
All right, we stay in Sapporo for night number 4, and then we have Goto versus Sonata, Tanahashi versus Yano, Juice versus Kenta, Yoshihashi versus Evil, and then Tetsuya Naito versus Zack Sabre Jr.
This is kind of an interesting card. Naito and Zack is always good, but it's like, seen it a million times. I predict Naito winning. I got Evil beating Yoshihashi in just a match, which is actually that actually might have a little heat behind it because of the what happened in the New Japan Cup between those two when Evil took advantage of the knee injury. Honestly, the match on this show that just gets my attention the most is Juice Robinson and Kenta. That sounds like a damn fine match. I think Kenta will win that one. Tanahashi over Yano. We're not going to do that with Tanahashi. and kind of a pick'em, Sonata over Goto.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I think Goto versus Sonata might be the sleeper match of this card.
Yeah, that might actually be very good.
Next we move over to Kobe for night 5. We have Taichi versus Takahashi, which was probably the snoozer of the night. Jeff Cobb versus Minoru Suzuki, which is going to be insane. We have Kodabushi versus Ishii. That should be a fun one. Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi. Again, that should be an excellent match. And then we have a rematch of multiple times of Okada versus Jay White.
How amazing is this card to have Taichi versus Yujiro on it and still be amazing?
Right?
Because those 4 matches are just, oh my god. Taichi and Yujiro, whatever, I think Taichi probably wins because he's kind of higher ranked. Suzuki over Cobb, Ibushi over Ishii, which could go either way. They always have killer performances. I remember either last year or the year before in either Osaka or Budokan, they just had an amazing. And then Ospreay and Shingo, that is a rematch of the Best of the Super Junior final from last year. That was an incredible match.
That was awesome.
Which leads me to suggest that Shingo Takagi will get his win back in this match. And then Okada and Jay White, which I'm not going to say it's always a great match because they've had some matches that were just okay, but the main event in Madison Square Garden, I thought, was just an absolutely phenomenal match. And like I said, Jay has come so far that I'm never going to doubt. I'm never going to doubt the ability of these two to deliver a great match together.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The Madison Square Garden match was really good compared to the match where Okada lost the title. Right? He lost it to Jay White, right? Or am I totally skipping somebody? He lost it
to Kenny Omega.
Yeah.
Tanahashi lost it to Jay White.
Sorry.
And I don't remember if I ever saw that match or not.
I totally forgot that match. I totally forgot Kenny Omega had the IWGP title.
Who can remember that at this point?
Right. Feels like a billion years ago. All right. We move over to night 6 and they head back to Kurikan Hall here. And it's Yoshihashi versus Sonata, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Kenta, Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Juice Robinson, Yano versus Evil, and then finishing out the night, Goto versus Tetsuya Naito.
Goto and Naito is one of those matches that you don't really think of, but it's if you've been watching New Japan for a long time, that's a reliably a very strong match, and I think that I've got this one down as an upset. I think Goto catching the double champion in that one.
Interesting. The only thing, the thing this year is kind of a bummer is there's not going to be as much time between the end of the G1 and Wrestle Kingdom. So usually we have, if anybody beats a current champion, they usually get a championship match between the end of the G1 and Wrestle Kingdom. So I'm curious how they're going to work those out.
So I actually did keep that in mind as I booked this too, because I can totally see it. I'm not going to spoil it, but Naito is only going to drop one other fall in the tournament, and it especially if they just do it for the Intercontinental title, because Naito has said that he wants to defend both belts separately.
Yeah,
Naito and Goto for the Intercontinental title at Power Struggle. That's a good man.
All right, what do you have for the rest of this card?
I have also got Yano upsetting Evil in one of Evil's lead losses of the tournament. So I think this is going to be an upset night. But Tanahashi over Juice, which I'm sure, they're friends and train together. I'm sure they're going to have a great match. Zack and Kenta sounds really interesting to me. I picked Kenta to win just because. And I've got, Sonata over Yoshihashi and what I'm sure will be a competent professional wrestling match.
We stay at Kurikan Hall for night 7, and we have Minoru Suzuki versus Yujiro Takahashi, Kota Ibushi versus Jeff Cobb, yes please, Okada versus Taichi, and then we have Will Ospreay versus Jay White, and Ishii versus Shingo Takagi.
Oh Lord, they had a match for the Never title in February. That was freaking awesome. So yeah, this is, and Korakuen in the G1 is always, especially, which is going to be hard this year because of the lack and that's going to be a problem throughout the tournament, the lack of genuine crowd fire. But Will Ospreay and Jay White at Korakuen Hall, that's going to be, and Ishii and Shingo. So I've got Ishii winning over Shingo, Jay White beating Will Ospreay, Okada beating Taiji, Bushi beating Jeff Cobb, and Minoru Suzuki beating Yujiro. So, no real upsets on this.
For night 8, we head out to Niigata, and we have Juice Robinson versus Toru Yano, Goto versus Zack Sabre Jr., Tanahashi versus Yoshihashi, Kenta versus Evil, and Naito versus Sonata. So we have Bullet Club versus Bullet Club, LIJ versus LIJ. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. And Kenta and Evil, I think they wrestled in the G1 last year, even though, Evil wasn't Bullet Club then. But they, I'm sure, that's a match and it'll be interesting. I am very intrigued by Naito versus Sonata.
Yes, they've had an interesting relationship the past year or so.
Yeah. Sonata is, maybe he's starting to feel a little, like he's the low man on the totem pole in LIJ these days. I could see it being a big part of the story, the kind of jealousy of when Shingo came in and kind of shot to the number 2 or 3 spot in the group. So yeah, I think this would be really interesting. I've got Naito winning over Sonata, but don't worry, I do have Sonata doing something special on the last night. I've got Evil beating Kenta because Evil needs to win a lot for my thing to work. Tanahashi beating Yoshihashi, Goto beating Zack Sabre Jr., which is one of those matchups to me that it's kind of a styles clash, but it usually kind of hits for me just because it's violent and interesting, which is you could almost, violent and interesting would be a great name for a tag team of Hiroki Goto and Zack Sabre Jr. And I've got Juice over Toru Yano in what I am sure will be a very entertaining.
That I was actually just about to say this. This is probably going to be the most comedy-driven comedy match in the tournament. Let's see. The next night we go to Kawa. I don't know how to say that. I think it's Kawa. We have Shingo Takagi versus Yujiro Takahashi, Jeff Cobb versus Jay White. That should be an interesting one. Okada versus Suzuki, which are always fun matches. Ishii versus Tai Chi. That's probably not. I think we're probably going to go the same way on this. And then the last.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Kota Bushi versus Will Ospreay finishes out the night.
God, oh God, that yes, just inject that straight into my neck, just straight into the bloodstream. What I was in the process of saying was that Ishii usually gets like the best singles matches out of Tai Chi, so I think that they will probably have a good match. Ibushi and Ospreay, they actually had the opener for the Never title at the Tokyo Dome last year, and that was an awesome match. And I fully expect that this will end up being a candidate for the best match of the tournament. We got Ibushi winning. I've got Taichi beating Tomohiro Ishii.
Ooh.
I've got this might be a little something. Minoru Suzuki beating Kazuchiko Okada. I have Jay White beating Jeff Cobb. I think it's going to be a really interesting match.
Yeah, that should be a good one.
Shingo smashing over Yujiro.
All right. Let's see. For the next night, we head to Hiroshima, and we have Tomohiro Ishii. Was actually wrong one, right? Goto versus Toru Yano. Then we have Sonata versus Zack Sabre Jr. Always a good match. Juice Robinson versus Evil. Yoshihashi versus Tetsuya Naito, and rounding out the night, Tanahashi versus Kenta. Yeah,
Tanahashi versus Kenta seems like I know that they wrestled last year in the G1, and I remember it being good. Didn't Tanahashi win that match, or am I mistaken?
I do not have the results in front of me.
I think he did, but I have. I've got. I think Kenta is that'll be his signature win of the tournament. Will be a win over Tanahashi. Naito over Yoshihashi. Evil over Juice. Sonata over Zack, and what is always a technical masterpiece. And Goto against Yano, which those guys have known each other and wrestled each other forever, and it'll be a match. And Yano will try to catch him in a roll up, and Goto will eventually hit the GTR and win, and they'll still good chaos, boys.
All right. We stay in Hiroshima for Ishii versus Takahashi, Okada versus Jeff Cobb, Ospreay versus Suzuki, Taichi versus Jay White, and then Kota Ibushi versus Shingo Takagi.
No, say that again. Kota Ibushi versus Shingo Takagi. Mark October 7th on your calendar. Holy crap. Have they ever had a singles match before?
I am not sure.
It's not impossible, but I can't remember one. They've definitely never had one on a stage this big. That is going to be another candidate for match of the tournament, I think. I've got. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't have anything showing up besides them being in multi-man matches together.
Yeah. So Ibushi over Shingo in possible match of the tournament. Jay White over Taichi, and I always kind of like the heel versus heel tournament matches. So I think that that'll be kind of an entertaining match. Will Ospreay and Minoru Suzuki in a battle of two guys who are in the very upper tier of best guys in wrestling, but for really different reasons. I also don't think they have ever had a singles match. So, but they're both great, and you're not going to convince me that Will Ospreay or Minoru Suzuki is going to shit the bed before I see them, right? So, I think Will wins that one. Okada over Jeff Cobb, which that might actually be a hell of a match. And Ishii over Yujiro, lots of lariats, lots of chopping, and a vertical drop brainbuster.
All right, we move to Yokohama For night 12, we have Goto versus Yoshihashi, Toriano versus Zack Sabre Jr. That actually should be an interesting one. Sonata versus Kenta, Juice versus Tetsuya Naito, and then Tanahashi versus Evil to finish out that night.
Okay, this is one that I may have to change just looking at it because it doesn't really affect the outcome and it looks better. I had Yoshihashi upsetting Hiroki Goto, but I'm going to go ahead and officially change that to Goto beating Yoshihashi because it makes no difference and it'll work out better in the I've got Zack over Yano in what will be a very odd but entertaining match, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
Kenta versus Sonata, reliable. It's always going to be good. I think Kenta wins that one. Naito over Juice and Evil over Tanahashi. The big match of the night.
Yeah, that pretty much that would be where I land. We move on to Osaka for night 13, where we have Ishii versus Jeff Cobb. Yes, please. I don't know why this is going to be so low on the card. This should be like the fifth match of the night. Jay White versus Yujiro, Will Ospreay versus Taichi, Kodabushi versus Minoru Suzuki, and Okada versus Shingo Takagi.
That is 3 really great matches and the Taichi and Yujiro matches. I've got Cobb over Ishii, just because why not? Jay White over Yujiro, obviously. Ospreay over Taichi. Minoru Suzuki over Kota Ibushi. Big one. And what just sounds freaking outstanding, take Okada over Shingo Takagi.
Alrighty, we move to Nagoya for night 14. Yoshihashi, Zack Sabre Jr., Toriano versus Kenta, Juice versus Sonata, Tanahashi versus Goto, and Naito versus Evil. So we get a rematch here that they've been having for the past couple months.
This is still not the A-Block final. Nope. Tournament is... What night are we on? Okay, night
14.
Okay, I'm going to let Yoshihashi keep his upset over Zack that I have for him because I took his upset over Goto away. Scoring 2 upsets in a row. Okay, yeah, this is going to work out better. Yeah, Yoshihashi upsets Zack, but loses Goto. I have Yano upsetting Kenta, what I think will be entertaining, and I think Kenta's reaction to being upset by Yano will be entertaining. I have Juice over Sonata, but, that could just as easily go the other way. But yeah, I'll stick with Juice. Tanahashi over Goto, which could also go the other way. I may go back and retroactively change that to Goto.
Does that keep your math okay by giving Goto 2 new wins?
It does. That would actually just give him the tiebreaker over Tanahashi. And neither of them are going to make the finals anyway. And then the big one, the third match of the 2020 trilogy, I have got, because it has to for the math to work, Evil over Naito.
Ooh. So Naito isn't just going to put him down for good? They're going to trade it?
Nope. Evil is going on a tear in this thing.
All right. We move to Shizuoka. I guess that's how you say it. For night 15, Will Ospreay versus Jeff Cobb, Kota Ibushi versus Yujiro, Shingo Takagi versus Tai Chi, Minoru Suzuki, Jay White, and then Chaos members facing each other, Okada and Ishii.
Which is just always excellent.
So what do you got in here?
Hold on, I was looking at I was seeing if changing Sonata over Juice on the last show would screw up my and it doesn't. So I'm going to officially change those to Sonata over Juice and Goto over Tanahashi.
Oh, alrighty.
I'm going to watch somebody listen back over this in a month and go, "You idiot, you had it right the first time." I've got Will over Jeff Cobb, since Jeff Cobb beat Will in the Never title versus ROH TV title match at Madison Square Garden. Ibushi over Yujiro should be Kota Ibushi, the move is called the Kamigoye, which is it is a move that I think the Japanese works out to something roughly like exceeding God. So it is a move that he developed to be able to beat Hiroshi Tanahashi, who he sees as God. So when he hits the Kamigoye on guys like Yujiro and Doki, it just feels like a waste.
Alrighty.
Anyway, I guess I went off on a tangent there. Ibushi over Taichi, or Ibushi over Yujiro, Taichi over Shingo, which is an iffy one, but Taichi's gonna get some wins because he does. What should be an amazing evil versus evil battle, Jay White over Minoru Suzuki. And then it has happened before in the G1, but it's a thing that can happen again, and I'm gonna call it happening again. Ishii getting the upset over Okada.
Alrighty, moving on to night 6, we move to Yokohama, and we have Kenta versus Yoshihashi, Juice versus Zack Sabre Jr., Yano versus Tetsuya Naito, Goto versus Evil, and Tanahashi versus Sonata.
Is this at the new Yokohama Budokan?
Yes.
This is the first New Japan show in that building.
Yes.
I have got Kenta over Yoshihashi, Zack over Juice, should be good. Naito over Yano, Evil over Goto, and Tanahashi over Sonata.
Yeah, this seems to be like the weakest card of the nights.
Yeah, well, you're gonna have one. Goto and Evil was another one of those matches that it's a little understated, but when it comes down to it and they start throwing, it ends up being pretty entertaining. And Tanahashi and Sonata is going to be good. Juice and Zack is going to be good. The Yano and Naito will be what it is. Yoshihashi and Kenta.
All right, we move to Tokyo Ryogoku, and for the last 3 nights, so night 7.
Okay.
Night 17. Block final for A. We have Kota Ibushi versus Tai Chi, Zack Cobb versus Yujiro. Then we have Okada versus Ospreay, Ishii versus Jay White, and then Shingo Takagi versus Minoru Suzuki. So back to the rematch.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome top 3. How I should have. So I'm using this. There's 2 different Excel cheat sheets. One made by Chris Samsa, and the other one made by somebody else that you put in, and it'll automatically calculate your point totals for you. But unfortunately, when you do it, so when I update it for the last night, it updates the point totals for every night. So I can't go back and look at what my point totals were last time. Yeah, that's a very unnecessarily complicated way of me saying that I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to explain, that I have meticulously planned out here. But on the last show of A Block, okay, who's still in contention? Probably, realistically, Okada, Ibushi, Jay White, Minoru Suzuki. Ospreay has an outside chance. Shingo might have an outside chance. So, okay, the results. I'm going to run through results, and then I'm going to go through the point totals and see if what I tried to do here worked. Okay, you have Ibushi over Taichi. Still got that Golden Aces versus Dangerous Techers program. I've got Yujiro over Jeff Cobb, just because I couldn't not give Yujiro a single win.
That'd be a huge upset.
Shingo Takagi over Minoru Suzuki in a rematch from Jingu Stadium. That's just kind of the way of it. Ishii over Jay White in a little bit of an upset because Jay White has to lose to not make the finals. To give the block final will be Kazuchiko Okada and Will Ospreay, with Okada winning to win the block at 14 points, and in second place being a three-way tie with Ibushi, Jay White, and Minoru Suzuki at 12 points each.
Interesting.
Ospreay and Shingo at 10 points each, with Shingo having the tiebreaker. Ishii at 8, Taiji at 6, Cobb at 4, and Yujiro at
Interesting. Finishing out that block. So we got Okada taking the block. On the other side, night 18, we have Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Zack Sabre Jr. So again, with the next night, we also have the other half of the Dangerous Techers and the Golden Aces. Juice Robinson versus Hiroki Goto, Yano versus Yoshihashi, Tetsuya Naito versus Kenta, and then Sonata versus Evil. So Sonata finally gets to get his hands on Evil.
Now, this is, I was so proud of the way my A block came out that I was surprised that my B block almost kind of came out better. So I have got Tanahashi over Zack Sabre Jr. They've wrestled a million times. Tanahashi has submitted Tanahashi submitted to Zack in Madison Square Garden, so we know that they're equals at this point. But to push the tag program along, I have Tanahashi beating Zack Sabre Jr.
Do you think they're going to continue that program on?
I think that they're going to at least do another match of Power Struggle and then do whatever they're going to do.
Okay.
Where was I? Goto over Juice. Goto's going to finish out pretty strong here. Yoshihashi over Yano. Give my boy Yoshihashi one. A rematch from a very good double title match earlier this year. I have Naito again beating Kenta. And then the battle of former tag team partners, I have Sonata beating Evil. And I think that they should add a stipulation to that match that the loser has to spell their name in lowercase letter. So, with those results, the results that I just laid out, B block comes out to, you have at the bottom, you have Juice, Yoshihashi, and Zack at 4 points each, not their year. Yano's going to Yano at 6 points. You have Sonata and Tanahashi both finishing strong at 10 points each, and I think Tanahashi had the tiebreaker. And then you end up at the top, tied at 12 points each. You have Kenta and Goto. I can't remember who got the tiebreaker. I think it was Kenta. That was just based on, in my head, of Goto beating Kenta at Wrestle Kingdom. And then the top two, 14 points each. Evil and Naito. But Evil has the tiebreaker. So Evil goes to the final.
So we have a rematch of the New Japan Cup Finals.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a rematch of the New Japan Cup Finals with Okada taking on Evil and conquering and getting his win back to win the 30th edition of the G1 Climax.
All right, so that's interesting. So what wins do you have over Naito?
Goto and Evil.
All right, so we'll probably have a title match between Goto and Naito, and then probably Evil versus Naito.
I don't think so yet, because I think they're probably, because of the short time.
Right.
I think they're probably only going to have time to do one title match, which will probably be a power struggle. And I could totally see it, just doing. It might be for the double titles, but like I said earlier, I could totally see doing Naito and Goto just for the Intercontinental title.
Sure. Yeah.
The Evil and Naito thing is just kind of to come back to later. But did you like how I had Sonata beat Evil on the last night, but Evil still slipped into the finals?
Yeah. So if Sonata, so basically the outcome of that match didn't matter.
The outcome of every match matters.
Well, the outcome of Sonata versus Evil, how you had it, wouldn't matter. Because if he won, Evil was going to be moving on. If he lost, Evil was moving on.
You're right. But I still think it'll work out. I'll look at it and think that there's maybe something that I need to fudge around to where it maybe the match order, maybe it'll work if we play with the match order. Because I think Evil, like, that does not need to be I think Naito. Okay, yeah, Naito and Kenta need to go on last.
Right.
And then Naito wins, but you've got to let the air out of the balloon. Evil has a tiebreak.
Well, then that would mean Naito and Kenta doesn't matter.
True, but you know what? Here's the thing, man. You can't always have it come down to the last night. Like, sometimes it's gotta be, you get speed bagged. Sometimes you gotta do something a little different. And I am an advocate of some not doing the same thing every time in these tournaments.
Sure. So yeah, this should be a very interesting tournament. We just blast through 19 shows in 30 days. So starting on the 19th. So that's this Saturday. That is going to continue through, and the finals are on October 18th. So exactly 30 days for this tournament, so should be a good one, and I'm looking forward. I don't know how we're gonna have to schedule this to cover these shows. We'll probably just do short episodes, hopefully, to kind of bang these out. Luckily, for the most part, they're not doing tons of 3-show runs. So we got 2-show run with 2 days in between, a 2-show with 2 days in between, and then actually a 1-show with 1 day in between. Then we have a triple. Then we have a nice 3-day break. Then we have we have 5, 6, 7th, and 8th with 1 day for 10th and 11th, and then 1 day 13th, 14th with 1 day 16th, 17th, and 18th. So never mind, we have some triples and we have a quad in there as well. So
yeah. If you're really into Japanese wrestling, not just New Japan, also because the pandemic just screwed up the whole world, and because the G1 had already been moved to fall because of the Olympics, you have Stardom's 5-star Grand Prix, All Japan's Champion Carnival, Noah's N1 Victory, whatever, and the G1 Climax all happening at the same time.
Well, and on this side, we have ROH Pure Tournament going on too.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that too. Jonathan Gresham, whoever Jonathan Gresham wrestled on the show last week, really, really good.
So yeah, so we have so much going on, and then the unfortunate thing is next year's G1 is going to be pushed again to September, assuming that they're trying to do the Olympics next year in Japan. But
hopefully we can have Olympics next year.
Right. Well, so we'll see how that goes. So it could be an interesting 2 years in a row when it comes to the G1. So any parting words before we wrap it up this evening?
It's been feeling just, it feels a little off because the G1 is but I think that it would feel more off if the rest of the world was normal. The fact that everything else is screwed up, just everything else, and the G1 is in September. But like when I actually, sat down and started looking at the matchups today, I got really excited, and I think, this is the best month of the year. Whatever month coincides with the happening of the G1 Climax, the best month of the year to be a wrestling fan.
Yeah, I was really looking forward to the best of the Super Juniors this year.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that didn't happen. So hopefully next year.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for joining me, Trey. Why don't you throw out where people can find you and all that fun stuff?
Find me on Twitter at Bad Historian. I actually just adopted that Twitter handle today, and I have a blog that has like 2 posts on it that will have more eventually, I hope, at outlawwrestlingreview.com. And yeah, that's all I got going on right now.
All right, excellent. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on YouTube, so be sure to subscribe over there. If you hit the bell notification, it'll let you know when I schedule a live stream, not just when it does go live. I try to schedule these out as far as in advance as possible. Today was actually a bit short, but we also do a Dynamite review show on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern is the normal time, and hopefully Dustin will be back for that this week. And be sure to share the content around, head over to iTunes, give us a review. There's also a link to our Discord in the show notes and description. If you have any mailbag questions, comments, feedback, all that fun stuff, you can send them to eric@thatswrestling.com. So for Trey Weisgarber, my name is Eric LaRoche. Thanks for watching. That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.
Bye.